morning and welcome to Graphics Pro Expo Meadowlands, July 2022. I'm Dave Pomeroy with Graphics Pro Expo. Pleased to have Lon Winters next to me. Lon is from Graphic Elephants in Elizabeth, Colorado. Lon, thanks for sitting down.
It's my pleasure.
Appreciate you coming in here. So for those who don't know you, for the uninitiated, give us a little bit of background on Graphic Elements and how your business has evolved over the years.
See, I got these questions from Reagan a couple of weeks ago, and the first thing I thought of when I checked this question out was, it's complicated. When I left school, I had a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Fine Arts, and I really didn't know what the heck I wanted to do. I wish I could look back and say, hey, it's a perfect balance of math and art that makes up screen printing, and I was destined for this. And even though maybe I have been destined for this, it probably wasn't my intention. So Dad said I needed a job, so I got one. Reclaiming screens at a shop in Lincoln, Nebraska, where I grew up. And then shortly thereafter, I had a friend of mine that said, hey, if you're serious about this business, I can get you an interview at OP in Denver. So I was to be married that summer, and I packed everything I owned into a teeny little pickup.
And OP is Ocean Pacific?
Ocean Pacific, see, us old guys remember that. That was the 800-pound gorilla back then. Probably the godfather of Billabong and Quicksilver and a lot of the beach brands. And basically I moved out on an interview, took a job as I called myself the ink boy for $4.05 an hour, and was production manager there within just a few months. That was I don't know whether I'm all that talented or whether everybody at that time just didn't work that hard or couldn't put the pieces together. So I became a production manager pretty quickly, and then was a general manager at Golden Squeegee, another large apparel company, screen print company in Denver. We incorporated in 1993 because I was destined to kind of be my own boss. And we built a company. I had an opportunity with a retail store owner to build what was called Graphic Elements at the time. We went from 0 to 5 million impressions within 5 years. We did our first print job was when the Broncos won their Super Bowl in the 90s. The paint wasn't even dry on the floor. Oh, by the way, we didn't get paid. Starter went out of business. So our very first job, we got burned. We built that 6 automatics and 100 heads of embroidery, over 100 people, 50,000 square feet, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 3 shifts. I call it a young man sport or a young person sport. I couldn't do that anymore. Fantastic experience. I'm so glad that I was able to go through it, but wow, it was a whole lot of work. Probably one of the more miserable times of my life, personally and business-wise. When you're the plant manager, general manager, it's like nobody knows how to run a plunger. So when the toilets overflow in the middle of the night, guess who gets to go clean the mess up? So it was quite an experience kind of growing up, and 5 years into it, 7 years into it, you may have heard the story, my partner's and his wife divorced, and she got 2/3 of the most profitable stores. He had 55 retail stores, which is what our customer base started out as. And then we also built a contract business and a full package business while that was going along. And we were profitable to the last day. Graphic Elements was. His stores pretty much took us down. So what I did with Graphic Elephants was took what I thought was good about Graphic Elements and kind of rebuilt, downsized, took key employees. Jason Balish has been with me since he was 19 years old. He's 46, I think, now. And he started out just pulling a manual squeegee, and he's been my right-hand man for probably 20 years now. So he was the production manager there at Graphic Elements, and then became kind of my key individual to bring over to Graphic Elephants. And then we brought the best accounts, the best people wanted to still do business with us. We had a strong reputation, quality, pushing the envelope, doing things differently than a lot of people. And so we've been able to build that back up. And that was 16 years ago that happened. So ultimately, we've kind of built a little bit of a different business model. We specialize in the specialty, try to do things a little different. And then we also have worked really hard to be involved in the community in a way that we're trying to bring education. We do some consulting work with manufacturers as well as other printers in the business. So it's kind of, that was a long-winded version, but it's changed quite a bit. And then even through COVID, how it changed us. I was on the road a lot pre-COVID and kind of lost some hands-on. Apparently I liked this printing thing, and I was spending so much time on the road I wasn't really paying attention to my own business. So we're a better version of ourselves today than we were pre-COVID. So in a lot of ways, we all suffered and continue to suffer, but it did help us realign a little bit and make us better for who we are.
Appreciate that background. And by the way, when you talk about community in that sense, you're talking about the decorated apparel community, the graphics community that you've been so involved with and helped so many along with their own businesses in that time. So because of that and because of the background that you have, I think you're well qualified to answer this next question. Our theme today, if we have one, is printing the perfect t-shirt. So 2 questions. First of all, is it possible to print the perfect t-shirt? And if so, what are the key variables to get as close as perfect as possible?
I have a one-word answer. I don't think you can print a perfect t-shirt, but I would say that the client's expectations have to be the goal. I feel like we, Jason, myself, and our key people, our executive team, have always, that's sort of our target is the perfect t-shirt. We say, I call these Lonisms, cliches. If our goals are perfection, we can settle for excellence. But if our goals are good enough, then we're going to fall short. So finding that balance between perfect and what the customer expectations has been a 35-year learning process for me, because I feel like that's been our kind of our target. But you really can't. I mean, there's particularly if you're a perfectionist, you can look at any t-shirt anywhere and find imperfections within it, whether it's even manufacturing the blank or but the process itself is so full of variables, and you can argue maybe thousands of variables. And the more you wrap your arms around controlling pieces of the process, the more that control gets you closer to repeatability, closer to that perfect t-shirt. And ultimately, what our background has become is through screen printing. The key word there is screen. Another Lonism I'll throw out there: if you control the screen, then you have a chance to control the process. And if that's true, and I know it is, then the opposite's got to be true. If you don't control the screen, you have zero control over the process on press. So there's so much to doing your best to control that component. I call it the tipping point. It's kind of where we go from deconstructing to reconstructing. My friend Mark Gervais from China always says that's when it gets real, because it's concept from art development separation. It starts to get real when you start rebuilding it with the screen. So that's the key component. If you can control as many of the variables within the screen making piece of it, then you have a chance on press.
So screen is really the foundation that the rest of it's going to be built on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Folks, we're talking with Lon Winters from Graphic Elephants here today at Graphics Pro Expo in Meadowlands, New Jersey. Lon, this will be a 2-part question. Love to hear what some of the most important lessons are that you've learned to improve your processes and your business. And related to that, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've learned in that process?
One, I'd say be careful who you partner with. I've had some tough experiences with partners. Jason owns a small part of Graphic Elephants now, and I think I'm a better partner than a previous partner relationship. I mean, it's a marriage. You're in business in a situation that you've got to have 100% trust, and I've been through some not so good situations there. From a 30,000 foot view, be careful with your partners, but I talked about the balance of the math and art in our business. I call this my Einstein bit. Einstein has a number of quotes that are used over and over, but one of them that I love to use is that imagination is more important than knowledge. And here's arguably one of the smartest men to ever walk the face of the planet who says imagination is more important than knowledge. And I think that's probably a lesson I've learned, that I was trying so hard to control everything on the front end. With mentors like Mark Gray, Joe Clark, Richard Greaves, those guys are all about controlling everything. And that was my goal. That's what I wanted to try to do. Once I learned I can't control everything, I guess maybe I learned that in life too. It was a little easier to start balancing that creative piece of it with the math and science. And I don't think we ever want to lose the art, because that's what makes it fun. The art, creative piece of it makes it fun. So the lesson learned is figuring out how to balance the creativity with the controllables, because you've got to control what you can.
Okay, great answer. We hear a lot about direct-to-garment printing. Love to hear what your experience has been then. If you can tell us what you're doing with DTG, how it complements your screen printing operations on.
It took, it's sort of this saying that adapt or die. And I believe that. I think if you don't embrace the digital direction of our apparel decorating industry, then you most likely will die. You must at least embrace digital management, digital art. The DTG thing has been difficult in some ways, and our model isn't so much the print-on-demand model. So we haven't totally embraced it from the garment perspective. But my wife has a business we call Tea Towels that she's actually, there's a pretty cute story behind all of it, but we've embraced the DTG technology to do those where we can do almost a print-on-demand approach. And it puts us in a retail space that we're kind of working on. We've got the Tea Towels project, and then we have a Christian Edge project that we embrace the DTG for. I'm more interested or becoming more interested in the DTF solution in certain applications as well. So it's interesting.
DTF being direct-to-film printing as opposed to direct-to-garment printing.
Right. So that feels like direct-to-garment 20 years ago, sort of the Wild West right now. We don't have to embrace it just yet, so we're being a little bit more patient. I have clients and customers that have bought into it, and they're making a lot of money using it. So it's kind of interesting. We've been told as screen printers that DTG will take over screen printing, and I still don't believe that. But DTF's going to carve out some DTG business. It's pretty interesting how that's evolved, and I think you'll see DTF evolve quickly, way quicker than DTG.
And it sounds like whether you're talking about DTF or DTG printing, at least for your business, you don't see that as something that, so as you said, it's now replacing the screen printing process for you, but it has its place.
For sure, it creates new space. I think that DTG and screen printing are both apparel decorating. DTG has its place in the low run, high color, and that's debatable where the crossover is now. And then the screen print, anything over 10,000 pieces should probably be screen printed. And where those numbers cross over becomes more and more debatable. And I think embracing both technologies gives you more options and grows your business in areas that maybe you had to walk away from. So if somebody needed 12 full color birthday shirts, you might walk away from that if you're a screen printer. But if you've got DTG, you can easily accommodate that for $30 a piece. And on the flip side, if you're a DTG decorator, you may walk away from a 10,000 piece run just because you can't facilitate that. So they both kind of complement each other. And then I think the DTF, they carve into each other, the DTG and the screen print, but DTF carves an even bigger chunk out of DTG, particularly on odd substrates. So the print-on-demand kind of model where you've got 12 birthday shirts, but I also want a bag for the birthday girl and a sweatshirt for grandma, you're really limited sometimes on DTG, particularly if it's a poly or red sweatshirt, let's say, where the DTF gives you the options to print all of those at different sizes and be able to do the bag and do it's kind of interesting. There's more flexibility even with DTF, which I continue to say I don't want to talk about that because everybody talks about it, but it is kind of something interesting and new that we get to talk about because things haven't really been all that interesting and new recently. So it's kind of fun.
And each has its place. Yeah. Okay, so Lon, appreciate you being here today. As you talked about, you've had a lot of involvement over the years with the decorated apparel community. I'm guessing you have talked to and gotten to know hundreds, if not thousands, of decorators across the country and maybe the world. So with that in mind, and here we are in mid-2022, we're 2 years into a global pandemic. We have the strangest economy we've had in probably most of our lifetimes. What do you see as the biggest challenges that face the apparel decorating market in the near term and the long term?
I don't think we're unique necessarily to the things we're facing. It's every time you turn on the news, there's supply chain issues. There's labor. Our costs have gone up 15 to 30%, and it's lack thereof labor. We kind of downsized. We definitely downsized early in the pandemic because we had to. We were all scared, didn't know what to do. In the grand scheme of things, we're probably better in certain areas. People we needed to probably purge ourselves of anyway. So as painful as that was, now as we built back up, I think minimum wage in Colorado is like $12.50, and we had a few people that had basically started years ago at $8, and we were kind of moving ahead of the minimum wage to a degree. You can't get anybody to sniff a job for under 15 an hour, and maybe that's where minimum wage should be. And in Colorado, we can probably justify it, make sense of it. I have a friend in Lubbock, Texas, though. They still have people that are paying $7.50 an hour. It's a different. I don't know that you, not to go political, I don't know that you can make a standard minimum wage across the whole country. We're lucky enough that I think we can withstand it. And I think I've shared this story before where we had a client that had dumped 5,000 pieces in, which is a little bit unusual for us to have that size of run. 5 locations, all polyester, lime green. So with 5 locations, you got to get them all out, and they all got to be out until you finish the last location. So it's days and days and days worth of, I don't know if anybody's printed poly, but it stinks. It smells like poly in the morning. We always joke about that, nothing like the smell of poly in the morning. Old Apocalypse Now. But in the middle of that, we were kind of losing our minds going, we're not getting paid enough for this, we're not getting paid enough for this, we're not getting paid enough for this. And I finally just kind of lost it with the client. We've been trying to set up a meeting, wouldn't respond to emails, wouldn't respond to phone calls. And I finally texted her and said that your prices are going up 30% right now, including this job. And she sent me back a thumbs up emoji. So people just don't have time to wrestle with it right now. And I think if there's any advice, don't hesitate to increase your prices. And that's, we've kind of gone across the board. Now we're trying to explain it as best as possible. Local labor's gone up. All our guys are making $18 an hour, instead of $12 an hour. That's the other thing, because they'll walk down the street after a month and get an increase. It's like, so you're people with very little experience making $18, $20 an hour. And your management, I've got to pay everybody a little bit more based on all of them getting paid a little bit more. So it's just like the news is telling us, that's trickling down. The end user's going to pay that. They have no choice. We can't do it for what we used to do it for. And you have that conversation with the customers and they shrug their shoulders and, oh, COVID, yeah, I get it. So far, everybody's been responsive in a positive way. How long that'll last, I don't know. We have that kind of conversation in some of our mentoring groups. It's like, make hay while the sun shines, and that's sort of our whole approach to business right now is let's do this thing while we can, and then be super aggressive in making changes if something else happens, like nuclear war, something like that.
Don't say that. Aardvark. So, wages connected to price pressure, I think that's probably something that just about everybody can identify with right now in terms of just challenges that we're all trying to work our way through.
Yeah, no question. It's and we keep saying the new normal, and I don't know if there's ever been a normal. I just think we've business in general has been business and home ownership, and it's been so good for so long, and it's not that bad right now. But a 4% loan, my daughter just finished a house. They got married last year, and they're finishing a house right now. And so they've watched interest rates go from 2 to 5.5, 6, and they were able to lock in at 4. When we bought our first home, I think we were 7%. Didn't think it was that bad at the time. So 4% isn't terrible. It's not 2, but I just think things have been awful. The word's probably not easy, but comfortable for so long that
Maybe people of a certain age are going to know what Ocean Pacific is, and they're also going to know what 9% and 13% interest rates for.
I must be showing my age apparently.
Well, Lon, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you for sitting down. You've got some people at your booth waiting for you to get back there, so your time is appreciated. I'm Dave Pomeroy with Graphics Pro Expo, sitting with Lon Winters from Graphic Elements. Thanks so much, Lon.
Thank you.